We just finished a conversation on the critical issue of road funding. We all use the roads to get to and from work, school, church, but that's not the only way we can travel. As a transit power user, I can tell you that that is a critical way for Michiganders and Detroiters to be able to move about the region. We certainly don't have the kind of transit system in Metro Detroit that the regions we compete with have. The Chamber was very much engaged in the last ballot question a few years back on how we fund the regional transit system, and voters said we didn't quite have the plan right. So we want to find out what the next iteration of a transit plan is. So I want to welcome Representative Jason Morgan from Washtenaw County, who has been a real leader on transit, because of course the Detroit region isn't just the three counties we think about. It includes Washtenaw County, and we need to be able to connect the critical economic drivers in Washtenaw County as well. So Russ, Representative, thank you for this conversation.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So we just got done talking about road funding. Let's touch on that real quick because it's intertwined. They're trying to figure out road funding. Working out transit solutions is historically underfunded.
Yeah.
So how do, one, you plan to navigate making sure there's funding for the roads, but also moving on to overall transit in the state of Michigan?
Absolutely. Well, it's great to be with you, and I think it's a both-and question. We absolutely need to fund our roads, particularly the local roads in our communities and our neighborhoods. That's something I have long believed in and pushed very strongly for. But we can't fund roads and leave transit in the rearview mirror. We have done this for too long. We've solved the problem of the day rather than actually planning for the future and investing in a future vision for what we want to see in our state. So you have to fix the roads, you have to fix that crumbling infrastructure, and you've got to invest meaningfully in public transit, rail, buses, both in urban areas and especially in rural areas as well. It's got to be a comprehensive long-term strategy.
How do you move it from a more urban area like Ann Arbor that does have excellent public transit systems? How do you move it to areas outside, like making that sell in Southwest Michigan or Northern Michigan or the Upper Peninsula, that a positive regional transit system is beneficial to everybody?
So almost every part of our state has some form of public transportation. A lot of people don't realize this, but our rural areas rely on public transit in a different way. I think that's the key. Public transit
I'm from the UP. Like, we had dial-a-ride and that was it. Otherwise, you were calling a friend.
Yeah, where in the UP?
Newberry.
Okay, Newberry. I went to school in Marquette,
See, there
up
we
at
go.
Northern. And when I was in Marquette, I discovered the local bus system up there, MarkTran, as a student. And I said, I don't think the system works very well. I don't know where it's ever going. And we worked with the university and with the system to develop an actual schedule and route and connect it with Google Maps so you knew when the bus was going to show up. It's not just creating public transit, it's making it actually work and making it accessible where people are. But it looks different in every part of the state. Some places, like Metro Detroit, rail, light rail and heavy rail might actually be something that does work. In some places you have buses that can go to different communities and connect them. Other places it's door-to-door, dial-a-ride type services, it's micro-transit. There's more creative technology today than there's ever been to get people where they need to go.
So that brings us back to being able to make sure we have a robust road system. Now, where does that money coming left over for these transit solutions for people who don't drive or don't want to drive?
Yeah, well, so here's the thing. We need billions of dollars for roads. We need a couple $100 million for public transit to make a huge improvement.
Okay, where does that money go?
What do you mean? Where is it
Like
go?
a couple $100 million? Because like we know where the road funding goes. We can see it. We can, in every bump we don't feel, we can feel it.
Yes.
But when it comes to transit solutions, a couple $100 million does not seem like a lot.
Well, and I want to note that buses drive on the roads too, so we've got to make sure that if you've ridden a bus or driven a car in many places in Michigan, you've experienced the roller coaster that it is. So it goes in two main areas. One, local bus operating funding, stabilizing and investing in local bus services throughout the state. And that doesn't just mean like a literal bus. It means buses and dial-a-ride type transit connections and more
Okay.
creative solutions. That's one big piece. The other is actually having money to invest in rail upgrades to speed up the routes between Detroit and Pontiac and Chicago. And the state contracts with MDOT for as many routes as we want for high-speed rail service throughout Michigan. We can add more routes if we choose to. It's possible. You could add a few more routes a day between Detroit, Ann Arbor, Kalamazoo, and Jackson and Chicago, and create more options for people to get around.
When I think of light rail, I think of pipe dreams of maybe extending, a rail corridor up to Lansing, Traverse City, something like that. I mean, is that even foreseeable or possible without a heavy influx of federal dollars?
So I guess I try and be pragmatic and realistic, and also plan ahead for the future. You've got to start building out these systems where there's the viability today. So connecting Detroit and Ann Arbor and Lansing, that's very feasible today. You can easily do that in an accessible way financially. Getting up to Traverse City, also possible, but takes a lot more investment over time. So you've got to build your way up there. You can't just build it all at one time. You've got to invest in a long-term strategic plan in a thoughtful way.
A lot of people, when they're surveyed, when they decide whether or not to choose where they live, having a robust public transit system is important to them, especially if they're working in a city and plan to live in the city. Regionally, we have Chicago, which is a robust public transit system. The trains make it easy to move around. You don't necessarily need a car.
Right.
How do we build something like that out in the Detroit area, and use that as a tool to maybe draw some of those people to come live in Detroit and the state of Michigan?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So young people are demanding to live in communities that have public transit, that are walkable, that are accessible. They don't want to own a car, or maybe they're a two-person household that wants to own one car instead of two cars. Mm-hmm. They want alternatives. They want the freedom to get where they need to go without owning a car. That is something that's really important. And I guess I've been really frustrated by this. I am the exact example of a young person who moved back to my home state after living in Washington, D.C. for a year. And I said, I want to live in Michigan. I want this to be my home because it always has been. But I want to live in a modern society. And every other modern place in the world has an option for people to get around without taking a car. We have to be able to do that. And I'm a little frustrated because I feel like the last 2 years, we had a Democratic trifecta, and we still couldn't fund public transit. And we had all of the stars aligned at one time. We had over 110 business leaders, environmental, labor, everyone supporting a robust plan to invest $2 billion into mass transit in Michigan as part of a comprehensive strategy with housing and economic development and other things. And we still couldn't get that done. To me, it's simply a question of priorities. Do we actually believe in investing in a modern state? Because if we do, then let's actually do it. If we don't, let's keep talking about it and doing studies and never actually getting anything done. I come from a generation that has been saddled with debt from past generations, and everything is more expensive and less accessible. Housing, water infrastructure, roads, public transit. We have underinvested in all these things. Eventually somebody has to pay for them, and we have to fix it now, or it's just going to saddle my generation and future generations with further debt down the road.
This is a loaded question, but I'll ask it anyway. What is the bigger roadblock? Is it penny pinching from conservatives, from Republicans, or is it just changing the mindset within the Democratic Party that these things are also important? Governor Gretchen Whitmer, 2 years ago, put a council together to figure out why people weren't coming to the state of Michigan. Transit was one of those big things, but like you mentioned, nothing got done with the legislature being completely democratically controlled the last 2 years. So, do you I know you have to work on Republicans, but it sounds like you've got a lot of work to do convincing some fellow Democrats.
Yes, we've got to convince everyone, quite frankly. The only way something like this gets done is in a bipartisan way. I think that's roads, public transit. I think we are at a pivotal moment now where we know what transit can look like. We know what the needs are on roads. We have people at the table that, various people that want different ideas of getting something done. We've got to do it together. And I think that's the key, is do roads and public transit together and get something big done. We can do it if we actually want to. It's just a question of getting over egos or whatever the hell it is that's stopping us from doing these things, sorry. But we've got to just get it done. But I think it's a combination of doing it all together, making it happen, and investing in a real future for our state that people can believe in and want to move back to and stay in as they grow and develop.
And I don't want to sound skeptical or doom and gloom. So give me a transit success story, something that has happened in the state of Michigan over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I would say one big success story the last couple of years, Oakland County, developing regional transit. That is a massive success story where Oakland County expanded transit countywide and the voters approved it very strongly. That's a huge win that's going to have a positive impact for all of Oakland County and Metro Detroit area, along with Wayne County, along with the work we're doing in Washtenaw County. We've got great progress happening.
Do you think it takes a county, because L. Brooks Patterson, the longtime Oakland County executive, he was fairly insular in keeping Detroit out of Oakland County. Do you think now under Dave Coulter, that is kind of that feeling has flipped, and that now once Oakland County is on board, they're a power. It's the powerhouse county in the state that all these other counties can reasonably say, all right, we're in for a regional transit plan.
Absolutely. Oakland County is now a powerhouse in the state because of Dave Coulter and Dave Woodward and the work that they've been doing. I am very proud to represent parts of Washtenaw, Wayne, and Oakland counties. And so I take it very seriously, the ability to all work together collaboratively. And that's always been the case with Wayne, Washtenaw, and Oakland, and Macomb's always been part of that conversation. We all want to work together, we all want to talk to each other, and that's the only way we're going to get long-term, really big things done.
Yeah, how much of this is just working with local officials, local government officials? Because I know people on the local level, there's often council members that like, yeah, we would love this, but we can't raise our own money and plan without having a few of these communities on board.
Yeah, you can't connect communities or ask them to just raise property taxes enough to fund something meaningful with public transit or even our roads to the level they need to be maintained. But that's the thing, I think that's the state has to play that role. I put forward a $300 million a year plan called the Michigan Mobility Investment Act. I introduced it a few weeks ago, and I'm hoping to have a hearing on it that would invest about $300 million a year into mass transit, because you can't do transit with one city here and one city here, or even one county and one county. It's got to be a statewide approach, a statewide vision, and it's got to be real and bold.
And so, give me a couple more details of that plan. What specifically do you want, or like, is in that plan?
Yeah. So right now we have something called all-related sales tax. It's the money you pay for things, sales tax related to cars. That revenue, we are only using about 7% of it right now for transit. The Constitution says we can use up to 25. I want to use that full 25% of transportation dollars for transportation. Very straightforward concept, very much aligned with the idea of the roads plan. Let's use the transportation dollars for transportation and invest in transit and fix our local roads.
How much Democrat buy-in do you have? How much Republican buy-in do you have?
We will see. Nobody's saying too much yet, but I think that one of the challenges we've seen in the past is somebody has to put forward a vision and a plan and an idea. So that's what I'm doing for transit. I'm putting forward a bold plan that will bring us into the 21st century as in the state of Michigan, and I'm hopeful folks will get on board and support it on both sides of the aisle. And even if $300 million isn't what they want to support, I'd take $150. That'd be great. But we've got to start somewhere and get something done.
So it doesn't necessarily require billions of dollars to get to the point where everybody could kind of see a boost.
Right. It's a couple $100 million, and you can make massive progress with public transit in our state.
Because I know for me, in my head, I'm always thinking light rail, and so I'm thinking billions of dollars. Is that maybe part of selling it not to just fellow legislators, but to the people? It'd be like, it doesn't really take that much of a buy-in when you consider how much just a couple $100 million is in the overall state budget.
We spent $600 million in earmarks last term. I think we could have found $200 million for public transit.
You don't have any earmarks in the upcoming budget?
We all put them in. We'll see what gets funded. I would prefer none of them get funded, and we invest in comprehensive strategies. But It is what it is.
Gotcha. Well, I think that's about all the time we have. Any final thoughts on your last final pitch for transit in Michigan?
Yes, I think this is generational. We need to tell future generations that we actually believe in a future for our state that is modern and bold and that there's a real vision. So the only way we do that is by investing in transit, in housing and roads and our basic infrastructure and getting something done and proving that we can actually make things happen here in Michigan.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much
Thank you.
for your time today. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
Absolutely.